Hiker falls off a cliff. That's a true story I'm telling you today. Welcome to Doug Shoe Bushcraft. I'll start by reading parts of a press release by New Hampshire Fish and Game. And I'll put the link in the description. Injured hiker rescued from Canon Mt, Franconia, New Hampshire. Just before 9 p.m., New Hampshire Fish and Game conservation officers are made aware of an injured hiker near the Kinsman Ridge Trail on Canon Mt. The solo hiker reported they had lost the trail, and he was trying to make his way back to the summit of Canon Mt so that he could find the trail. He fell off a ledge, landing on rocks 20 to 30 feet below. So we've talked a lot about this on the channel. When New Hampshire Fish and Game received the message, that was 9 p.m. I don't know what time the hiker fell, but 9 is around dusk, I think. Should have a flashlight. Should also watch where you're going, particularly if you go off the trail. I mean, know the area. Be aware of the situation, the surrounding environment. I mean, if you're merely walking down the sidewalk in the city, you should still keep your eyes open because there could be a damaged area in the sidewalk or something. But usually in the city, you know, in the mall, something like that, you're walking, and our culture is very safety conscious, so we have people, our whole job is to make sure there's nothing on the floor, and there's all these building codes to make sure everything's safe for people with handrails and guardrails, and kind of like we're trying to foolproof the city and the buildings, the sidewalks. Even so, somebody can do something foolish and get hurt. Okay, out in the woods there's can be trail maintenance. Some trails aren't maintained. But even so, maintenance only comes around so often, and even when they do a good job, you're still going to have roots and rocks and things to trip over and potholes on a well-maintained trail, in my estimation. But then if you go off trail, that's just nature. That's just how God made it. And there's holes, there's cliffs. And it's been really rainy for the last few weeks here in New Hampshire. That makes things slippery. Bare rock can be slippery, but then if it has, you know, moss or something biological clinging to it, or if there's dead fallen leaves on the rocks, now it's really slippery. So I don't know here if he just stepped and there was nothing under his foot and he literally just stepped off the cliff, or if there was a slope before the cliff and he started sliding, couldn't control the slide, couldn't stop himself, and before he knew it, he's going through space. But there's lessons to be learned here. That's all I'm saying. And bring a flashlight. I keep saying that. Bring 2 flashlights, spare batteries, or if it's a rechargeable flashlight, you can bring a spare battery pack, like a USB battery pack. You know, you gotta work with me here, guys. We're all gonna be safe. So the report goes on. During the fall, the hiker suffered serious upper body injuries. The injured hiker advised that he was currently situated on another rocky ledge that was too steep to move in any direction without falling further. I don't know how he contacted the authorities. I'm guessing here, it's a guess, that he had a cell phone, it was working, he had reception, and was able to call 911, and then the police or whatever organization he contacted through 911, then they contacted New Hampshire Fish and Game. So I'm assuming he has a cell phone here. Well, thank God for that. A lot of places in the White Mountains, you don't have cell phone reception. Or you fall off a cliff, it's easy to lose a cell phone. It can fly out of your pocket. You have it, you can land on top of it, crunch, whoops, it's raining, it can get drowned, not work. Okay, so just another reason to keep your wits about you. But he fell, and thank God he didn't fall more than he did. But 20 feet, it says 20 to 30 feet. Let's pick the lowest, 20 feet. That's a lot. People can get killed from that. Someone can end up paralyzed. You could be, disabled for the rest of your life. I believe it. He wasn't. But he says that he was on a ledge. He fell to a lower ledge, and he couldn't hike up. Couldn't see any way to hike down, get off there to a safer place, so he's just trapped there. So that can happen. So if you're going to hike in the mountains, bring a light. So if you get in that sort of position, at least you can shine a powerful flashlight around. Maybe there's a spot that he wasn't seeing. Or maybe it was possible to climb up or down for some other person with more skills. I'm just saying, if you're going to hike in the White Mountains, you're not planning on rock climbing, but if something happens, well, you need to. Because if he didn't have the ability to call from a cell phone, he didn't have a satellite locator beacon or anything like that, what are you going to do? Just stay there and hope someone notices you eventually, try to yell? I mean, it's good to bring a whistle, I think, because after you yell till you can't yell anymore, or at least not very loudly, you can at least toot on a whistle probably. Things to think about. Continuing on, conservation officers with ATVs and volunteers from the Pemi Valley Search and Rescue Team responded to Canon Mountain. Able to access the summit by ATV, the first team of rescuers started towards the hiker's location on foot at 10:45 p.m. Really fast response time, I would say. By 11:15, the team had made voice contact, but due to the steep, thickly vegetated terrain, the team did not actually arrive to the hiker until around midnight. So you got to be aware. Again, that's why you want to be careful, take the proper steps, get the skills, not get in a situation like this, because Fish and Game was contacted around 9, and here it is now around midnight. So it's going to take a while. It could take a lot longer than that, depending on conditions and how busy the rescuers are. What if they're at another rescue? There's only so many people, right? But here it says thickly vegetated terrain, and I don't know for sure because I wasn't there, but when there's thick bushes like blueberry bushes, other bushes, or stunted trees because it's high in elevation, you can't see where you're putting your feet because you're off trail. It can look like the ground continues, and you can literally just step right off a cliff. And I'm not exaggerating here. This isn't Looney Tunes. A person got hurt. I only want to joke around so much, but you can step off a cliff if you're not careful. While situated precariously on the ledge, the team was able to stabilize injured hikers' injuries and eventually able to place him in a harness so that they could safely lower him by rope to the more stable ground below. Somehow the hiker was able to summon the energy to bushwhack with assistance of 500 feet back to Kinsman's Ridge Trail and the final half mile up to Kinsman's Ridge Trail to the summit of Canon Mountain. So some movement was possible. So I'm just speculating because he's a human being, so it's easy for me anyway to put myself in his position, because accidents can happen to anybody. I could accidentally step off a cliff, God forbid. Vegetation, you can't see it, right? So would I have been able to self-rescue? Depends how bad the injuries are, but if you can walk that half mile, I'm thinking I could likely walk back to the trailhead, my vehicle, something, self-rescue, but I don't know. Thankfully, I didn't have to. Visibility was quite poor during the entirety of the rescue. Well, there's the problem. As thick clouds, rain, and lightning had arrived at the start of the rescue and were present throughout. The injured hiker was taken by Littleton Fire Rescue to Littleton Regional Health Care for evaluation of his injuries. So imagine that. There's lightning coming down the whole time. So during this hiker's hike, maybe just look like threatening thunderstorms, but before you go out, you can look up a weather report online, watch one on TV, and can you read the sky enough to know if it feels like thunderstorms? Can you hear thunder in the distance? And I think I can sense it. Almost feels like electricity in the air. Like I can feel it. Guess it comes with experience. But if you're thinking there's going to be lightning coming out of the sky, that's not the time to be right up on the ridge, because electricity follows a path of least resistance, right? So that here's the clouds that have a potential of electricity. The higher the ground gets to it, that's most likely where the lightning is going to come down, right? So then if you're on this high ridge, so high that there's no trees or they're stunted and there's just little bushes, and you're walking along the top of that ridge, you're the highest thing, you're the closest thing to that cloud. Your head is the closest thing to the thundercloud. I mean, I'm not a lightning expert, but it seems like a bad idea to have lightning hitting my head, metal frame my pack. Now turn around. You know, you get into trouble and now you're making other people hike out into this, right? I mean, enjoy the great outdoors. Let's just take a few minutes to think about these things. I mean, you know, it could happen to any of us. The weather report says, you know, possibility of thunder showers for like a week almost. I'm hardly exaggerating. So as I joke around about other people, I could get hit by lightning here, you know, but what's the risk? I'm not climbing a ridge. That's just my decision. That's the risk I'm not willing to take. The 21-year-old Marlborough, Massachusetts man was identified as Matthew Blessing. Well, you know, probably nothing to joke around about, but I just point out we are talking about the Marlborough man, you know, so there's that. Okay, we gotta be serious here, guys. the actual Marlborough man, I mean, I don't smoke, I mean, but saw the commercials as a kid and thought they were entertaining, but the actual Marlborough man of mythology, American mythology, he could get hit by lightning a couple times, wouldn't faze him. You and me, you don't want it to happen. Okay, so I'm just gonna, before I get into more trouble, I'll just continue. Matthew is a self-described inexperienced hiker that learned of this hike from a co-worker. He was not well equipped for his day hike. He lacked a map, light source and rain gear. Steady rain has fallen over the month of June and into the early part of July in New Hampshire. Rainy weather has caused slippery trail conditions, which have led to many of the injuries seen by conservation officers recently. So this isn't just something that we're talking about in a theoretical sense. The people that have to deal with the aftermath and have to rescue these people, they're saying that they've seen more injuries like that caused by the slippery trail conditions. So if it's raining, you know, let's say you have bad balance or whatever disability or what age you are, that because of the rain you don't want to go at all. With other people, you know, they're adults, they can make their own decisions, and they say, okay, it's been raining, it's going to be slippery, so I'll just keep that in mind, take my time, you know, be careful, you know, but at least know what you get into. And they say appropriate footwear should be worn while hiking. Hiking boots that provide support, protection, and traction are recommended. Nice pair of hiking boots. You know, I realize that sneakers are lighter, but something that goes up your ankle, provides ankle support, and I believe anyway it can limit injury. In other words, you don't twist your ankle enough to get injured, or if you do, it's not as bad to have some ankle support. And they say for safe hiking tips and a list of essential gear, visit hikesafe.com. I'll put that link in the description. I'll put this article in the description. And just in closing, be careful, guys. So a lot of people have been getting injured in New Hampshire, particularly it seems the White Mountains this June and July. This particular person, no official sources like the news, but just people that were there. That he was pretty beat up, but he did make it, did survive, and no permanent injuries, thank goodness, thank God. But just it seems to me anyway, it's been more and more of this lately. So I'm spreading the word. If I think there's valuable information in this particular video, you can share it. Also, I'll put the links in the description. News on the trail, playlist I'm putting together with all the videos, and also playlist about survival, like basic survival skills. Thanks for joining me. See you again soon. Be happy and shout to God who makes us strong. Shout praises to the God of Jacob. Sing as you play tambourines and the lovely sounding stringed instruments. Psalm 81, 1 and 2.